an officer who was working in the Prime Minister's office. He was found to be a Soviet spy. I was in my car being escorted by our military. Suddenly, don't know, out of nowhere, big crowd of people came. Hezbollah with all the AK-47 guns, etc. Stop all of us. Would I want to do it again?
Hello, welcome back to another episode on Mr. Money TV. Today we are going to continue to explore the relationship between career, money and purpose. And today in this studio, we have invited a very special guest because we're going to explore this very unique career, which is the career of an ambassador. Yes, you hear me right. Now, we have always passed by Jalan Duta and we see all these big buildings and they have ambassadors inside. And sometimes watching spy movie, we wonder what does an ambassador actually really do, right? Is it really like the movies? And more importantly also, how to become an ambassador? And what's the career like? And what kind of money can you make as an ambassador as well? So today in this studio, we have a special guest, like we say. He is Dato Dr. Ilango.
Hi Peter, thank you very much. I'm happy to be on the show.
I want to ask you this one thing, right? What do we call an ex-ambassador?
Okay, great question. By convention, when you're retired as an ambassador, you're still called ambassador.
All right. Okay.
Which is why, you can call Ambassador Ilango until I am gone, for example.
Wow.
Yeah.
So once in, always in.
As ambassador.
So it's got a lifetime membership, huh?
Lifetime membership. But not paid line, no?
All right. More like honorary. Honorary. Yeah, that would be the right
But
word.
you also asked another interesting question. What is High Commissioner? Why is there ambassador?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I always wonder because some countries it's not called ambassador, some is called High Commissioner.
Okay.
So why is that?
Okay. Ambassador and High Commissioner are both ambassadors. Okay. But High Commissioners is the way Commonwealth countries call the ambassadors. So that means if two Commonwealth countries send ambassadors, they are called High Commissioners. So when I go to Singapore, I am Malaysian High Commissioner to Singapore.
Oh.
Singapore's ambassador to Malaysia is called Singapore High Commissioner to Malaysia.
Right.
But if at the same time I'm posted to Thailand, I'll be called Malaysian Ambassador to Thailand.
Right.
It's just because Thailand is not a Commonwealth country. So between Commonwealth country, we have the convention, we call ourselves High Commissioners, and non-Commonwealth country, we call ambassadors.
I see. Now I finally figured it out. As we get to know you, can you start by telling us how many countries have you been to as an ambassador or High Commissioner?
As ambassador level, only 3 countries, which is Lebanon, Cyprus, and Singapore. But in the diplomatic grade, before you reach ambassador, there are many other grades. You start off as a second secretary, and then you become first secretary, and then you become counselor, and then become minister counselor, and then become counselor. Only then you get promoted to be ambassador. So there are many other levels below that.
I suppose the job of an ambassador is actually under the foreign ministry, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so the boss will be the menteri lah, kan? So then how do we work our way up to be an ambassador? And who does the ambassador report to? Yeah, is it one level down from menteri or how does it work?
When you get into the foreign ministry, you will be called assistant secretary. That's the first level in the ministry.
So it's kind of like pegawai diplomat.
Yeah, pegawai diplomat.
But you all call yourself a assistant secretary.
Yeah. And then after 3 years in the ministry, they will send you out on a posting. After 3 years.
Confirm go posting.
You have to go.
Have to go.
If you're in foreign ministry, you cannot say you don't want to go because that is not the kind of people we want.
So at the moment you join the foreign ministry, you are prepared to pack your bags regularly.
Yes. That is your life.
Right.
Not everybody can do it, but that is the thing. If you say at any point, I don't want to travel anymore, then they'll ask you to leave the ministry.
Or then they'll switch you to another ministry. Transfer or whatever.
Transfer, because they can't sack you, right? So they just send you off.
Right. Okay.
Because the job requires you to travel all the time. And it's not always great fun also. Because there are countries where you don't want to go to.
Okay, before we go into that, do they bring your whole family together? So everyone will be paid for, all go together?
Yes, all. So your wife, your children, if you got a maid, also together.
Even as an assistant secretary?
Yes, even as a secretary, just my secretary in the office also get the same privilege.
Okay, so we start with a assistant secretary, that's the title.
In the ministry. Then when you go out. For Malaysian case, the first step is second secretary.
Second secretary, okay.
Second secretary will be like the most lowest diplomatic grade in Malaysia's level. Other countries start with third secretary, very big countries. But we don't do that. Third secretary is basically for economic officers, accountants and all these people. So we start second secretary. So you spend 3 years in a posting, for example. In my case, I was the second secretary in Germany, Bonn.
Okay.
After 3 years, and then normally you'll come back, you become a principal assistant secretary, one more step higher.
Okay.
Or sometimes if you're still not ready to be promoted, you still be assistant secretary again until you become promoted.
Right.
And then when you go out after that, another 3 years later, you'll be posted out. You must remember it's always 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, 3 years.
3 years foreign, 3 years local, 3 years foreign, 3 years local.
Sometimes when you're overseas, they may send you to another post, so you become 6 years. Not very often, but sometimes it happens.
Right.
In my case, after Germany, I didn't come back. They asked me to go on to Africa to open a new embassy. I didn't have to come back. So, and I was in Africa for about 4 years.
Oh.
Longer than required because nobody wanted to come to Africa.
Right.
That
So
place.
7 years there.
7
years overseas, out of Malaysia.
Altogether, yeah. By that time, I was already counselor.
In Africa that time.
I'd already gone from second secretary, I become first secretary, now become counselor already. Then when you come back, you will be at home, you will be under secretary. Under secretary means you are actually the head of the department. So under secretary is very important, the most important policy making level in the ministry or all the ministries. So when I came back from Beirut, I was under secretary for Europe. That means for all of Malaysia's relationship with Europe is under me. So I must know everything that happens in Europe at any given time.
That's where all this spy movie kind of looking stuff, conspiracy theory in movies start generating from.
Coming from.
Okay.
And all the European ambassadors in Kuala Lumpur, they have to go through me as a first point. That means I am so-called their boss on the ground in Wismaputra.
So in that case, any Europe, for your case will be any Europe related one, they report to you.
To me. So a European ambassador wants to meet somebody in the foreign ministry to discuss whatever it is, it's through me that they will have to do that. So I'm the one actually, I'm looking at the issue and then I'm reporting it to the higher up in the ministry, all that. So since you asked me where does ambassador come in, right? After councillor, then there's one more rank called minister councillor, even more senior. After that, there's one more rank called minister, Menteri.
Okay.
It sounds very strange, like a minister.
Okay.
But that rank is actually lower than ambassador, but it's called minister.
Okay.
So I was holding the rank of a minister when I was posted to Washington, D.C., America. On TV, there's a program, on Netflix, there's a movie called The Diplomat. I'm not sure whether you've seen it.
Yeah.
Watch it. There's one black guy who acts as a DCM, Deputy Chief of Mission. That was the role that I was playing.
Right.
The DCM is actually the controller of the whole embassy. Ambassador, because ambassador got to do many other things. They cannot do a lot of stuff.
Right. Kind of like the COO of the whole office.
Office.
Then ambassador will be the CEO.
Exactly.
The face.
Exactly. They expect you to sort it out before it comes to them. They don't want to touch all the dirty stuff and the problematic things. So you have to get the entire management of the embassy is you. The outward looking part of the embassy is also you. Dealing with the host government is also you. Making sure your ambassador doesn't get embarrassing or difficult situation, also you too.
So you do everything basically.
You got to do everything, but you got to be one step below the ambassador.
Because you're like the man behind the back.
So
like chief of staff and everything is you.
It's a chief of staff, Ruth. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So out there, the people, when they're dealing with the embassy, they know that the important person to deal with is a DCM.
I see.
Because the ambassador may not deal with every single thing.
Because they're a bit far off. They have to deal with the external more,
exactly.
right?
So that DCM post was the rank of a minister for me in Washington, D.C. From there, I was sent off as ambassador to Beirut and I was high commissioner at the same time to Cyprus. Because Cyprus is a Commonwealth country.
At the same time?
At the same time. My location, I'm living in Beirut, but I also have to travel to Cyprus to present my credentials. Right. See, ambassadors, when you're appointed, what happens is that the Agong will have to sign your letters of credence. It's a very special letter, written in very formal, old English, beautiful language, by the way.
Wow.
You know, they will send you, they start by saying that, greetings, so-and-so, we Agong, king, they call themselves we, right? We sendeth upon you our most trusted servant, so-and-so name, to reside with you and to act on our behalf, all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
That kind of stuff. So it's a very formal letter. I'm, of course, reading it from memory, so I'm getting some
Do you still have the letter?
I still have it. It's a beautiful letter. So you have to present the letter to the president or the king in the country where you are going to go to be posted. In my case, when I went to Lebanon, I have to present it to the President of Lebanon, Mr. Suleiman, and then I have to, of course, say the few things like,
the formalities and all.
His Majesty, the King, presents his greetings to you and all that kind of stuff. And he will say, thank you very much, convey my greetings to the Agong. Of course, you have no chance to go and tell the Agong that he said all that. Say all that,
Formality.
And then that is considered you have presented credential. Only after that you can actually act as ambassador. When you arrive in the country, you cannot act as ambassador yet. You are called ambassador designate.
Right.
You don't have the power.
Wow, okay.
So in the case of myself, I was given 2 letters. One is to Cyprus. So I have to go to Cyprus, present it to the President of Cyprus, that this is my letter from the Agong, accrediting me as High Commissioner to Cyprus.
Right.
So that means I can operate in Cyprus and Lebanon at the same time.
So when you are at the ambassador level, that's the peak of the career, Adila.
Peak.
Yeah, so you can't, because anywhere higher will be under politics area, right?
No, because you become more and more senior ambassador.
Oh, you still got senior ambassador?
Yeah, because you start at the more junior level.
Oh, junior ambassador, then senior ambassador.
They don't call it senior ambassador, they're all ambassadors. But it's by convention, when you first time become ambassador, they send you to some small country, very far away country, difficult countries.
Kind of like hospital posting lah.
Something like that. So when you become more senior, they send it to the more closer country, the more important ones.
Yeah, normal.
Normal, right? Which is why I started in Beirut, ended in Singapore. Because Singapore for us is a very, very super hyper important posting.
Wow.
Because it's neighbors.
Oh, so can I say that if you're being sent to, like, say, Singapore like that, also among the ambassador, you are one of the most highly regarded ones?
Yes, very senior rank.
Because it's got to be very sensitive. You got to be always FaceTime. Correct. And you need to be very careful with that position.
Yeah. So the ambassadors are sent to Singapore, Jakarta, Beijing, Washington.
All the important trade partners.
Delhi. These are all important ones. But the very first time you might become ambassador to Conakry, important but not so lah. It's very far away. That kind of stuff.
So you want to know how important is this ambassador and are they really flying their career? You want to ask which country are you being sent to in that sense?
It's not so fair also lah, because even first time being appointed, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
Far away, right?
That's true. Yeah, not fair to say that. But generally, we can read the room a little bit with those kind of things lah. So when you ended up as a Singapore High Ambassador, that was your last position lah. So after that, what did you do?
Well, my stay in Singapore happened to be a little bit short. I thought I would be there for 5 years, but there were certain reasons why, I was brought back, and that ended my stay in Singapore. But when I came back, shortly after that, the Barisan government had fallen, Pakatan government had come into, and I had this opportunity to meet Tun Dr. Mahathir, and I told him that I'm back here, and is there something that you would be able to do? And he obviously looked at my issues and all the thing, and he said, well, we'll put you somewhere. We'll send something important, do something for you. And that's when I found that I was to be posted to the PM's office to head a department called Public Sector Reform, which comes under this department called MAMPU, which is under PM's office. But within that, there is a unit, newly created one called Public Sector Reform.
Right.
Why Public Sector Reform? Because the Pakatan government that come into power, they had this manifesto. One of their ideas in the manifesto was institutional reform. The institutional reform talks about judiciary reform, police reform, all kind of things, plus also public sector. But the public sector one wasn't done yet because many interesting things were going elsewhere. So I was to look into the public sector reform. The issues in the public sector, briefly speaking, is that one, the public sector is very big. Too many public servants, 1.6 million. At that time, it was only about 1.3 million. The pension burden was too big, probably not going to be very sustainable long term. So something needs to be done. So that was the whole idea. So we needed to do some kind of reformation to make it more sustainable, more efficient, and all that kind of stuff. That was
so you were on ground when it comes to policy making when you were in that position, right?
Yeah.
Right, interesting. Now let's go back to your time in a foreign ministry. Maybe let's explore how did you actually got into the ministry, because it doesn't sound like it's a job that you can just walk into lah. Like Yeah, so how did you end up there to become this whole thing, right?
Hey, good question. You know why? First of all, you're true. I just stumbled into it. You really
Also can stumble into it.
can just stumble into it without actually knowing, because I had no clue there was such a job in this, something like this. I didn't know it existed.
Oh,
I
all
wanted
right.
to be something else. I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't get to be a doctor.
right.
So I studied to be a biochemist, and I was a biochemist and everything. But somewhere along the way, I had applied for this job known as PTD. The application, I think, is just closed or still open. Whoever is still interested, go to the SPA website, look for it, PTD. If you're interested and you're qualified, please apply.
That would be the Pegawai Takbir Diplomat, right?
Diplomatic.
The entry level.
Entry level. So because you have to go into that first before you can actually become a diplomat or anything else. You first have to go into that. Before that, of course, you got to sit for exam, interviews, and all these things. So I had applied, and somehow I had written the exams, and I obviously must have done well and went for the interview. And that one day I saw this very big envelope, telling me that, okay, you've been selected, please turn up for interview, training at Intan, Bukit Kera. So, and when during the training, and then that's when they take us around. And then I saw the foreign ministry, which is today in Jalan, Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, next to IDFR. In those days, the building used to have a very big antenna on top. Now it's no more there, because those days, telecommunication, everything was big antenna, right? Telex, everything. So it looks like some real swanky kind of place. I thought, wow, this would be a nice place to work in.
Canggih,
Canggih looking. So I told myself, how nice if I could be working in this place. And then somewhere along the way, I think they probably thought I was suitable enough to be the ministry. I was interviewed by another senior person from the ministry. And then end of 1987, they said, okay, we are sending you to the foreign ministry.
Oh.
So that's how I ended up in this place. So it's obviously something that you cannot plan for. It
Right.
just happens like that.
So, does it work like that? When you join this PTD thing, you kind of apply as like a, say, executive in a big corporation without a department. You go through that training. Then after that, you indicate your interest, which ministry you want to go to. Then they select you for that.
Yeah.
So PTD is kind of like a management training program for government servants.
For government
Right.
servants. But you must remember, the government actually very carefully selects the profile of the people. Not everybody gets. It's a very highly selective thing, because PTD is actually the top rank. The whole country is run by PTD. PTD is actually the backbone and the soul and the heart of Malaysia. Every head of the ministry is a PTD. The chief
Right.
secretary of the government is a PTD, never anybody else.
Right.
So this PTD is something like in India is called IAS. These are the heart of the country, So they select only very people who actually fit into that mold. So the 1 year in Intan is actually basically to make sure that you fit into the government kind of thinking line.
Right.
But this is where they also know that, because government does a lot of other types of work. Not everybody does the land office kind of work, right? Some people got to do economic kind of work. Some people got to do home security, that kind of stuff and all the things. So foreign ministry is also one of those.
Right.
So along the way, that's where they observe you, rather than you expressing your interest.
So
You're
they
being
see what you're
observed.
good at. Then they put you there.
Exactly. So there's somebody at the back all the time observing you. They probably taking notes. They say, okay, this guy probably fits into this area. And then when they talk to you, when you also say roughly the same thing, then they know it sort of matches.
I see. Now that we say it, right, since you have already achieved the highest that can be as ambassador, now that you look back, what do you think made you suitable for this job? Like, kind of like in those early days, right, when you were there, and then maybe think of yourself as that guy observing yourself. What would you have observed on the young Ilango that made it suitable to be in the foreign ministry?
Good question. I think I've thought very much about this, and I've come to this one conclusion. You must be extremely curious about the world around you. I used to read a huge amount of stuff. When I was young, I used to be surrounded by this book called Reader's Digest. Those days they used to have it.
Yes.
In the Reader's Digest, you'll find very, very interesting, small articles which suddenly you find that they resonate with you many years later down the road when you are in the career, I remember reading sometime in the 1980s one article about Slobodan Milosevic, the most dangerous man in Europe. This was like very early in the 80s, you know. I was curious. I just read about this. Slobodan Milosevic was Yugoslav. But later on, many years down the road, when Yugoslavia broke up, this is the guy who was actually indicted for the genocide and mass cleansing, ethnic cleansing, etc. He was the guy who was the mass murderer.
Right.
So the Reader Digest article where they plucked it from somewhere, they got it right like 20 years before the event. And remember, it stays in my mind. So I remember many of the details is through these things because I'm curious about to know what's happening all over the place.
Right.
So I think you have to be a curious type.
Why does having this curiosity make you a suitable person to be an ambassador or to be in this foreign ministry actually?
Because you see, the foreign ministry, the work, it requires you to be very observant. You must know a lot of many small details and able to string them together to come up with some kind of a picture. You know, and it's not very easy. You know, it's you have to be super observant. I think one of my skills, which I am quite proud to say is my skill, I have something like a photographic memory kind of a thing. You know, for example,
it sounds like a spy movie.
I don't know. See, like for example, as a young diplomat, we have to be note takers. That means when a foreign dignitary comes to meet PM, we always have to sit behind, to take notes. We have to record the conversation, and so that
who came in out, who whispered behind here,
what was mentioned, what is mentioned in the conversation, etc. All this kind of stuff. So there's always a note taker at the back. The note taking is not a very easy thing because the conversation going on between the Prime Minister and the Minister going on very fast, right? You are taking notes and you got to transcribe all of it after the thing is over. You got to have a perfect conversation.
So at the time got no recording, right?
No recording.
And you can't record, right?
Can't record. No such thing. It's called record a conversation. So that is how we know what has happened. That's how diplomats are very good because we know what we know.
Right.
Because we got volumes and volumes and volumes of record. We don't have to go to spies. We have to go to do this. Now, I can tell you one thing. Early days, for example, in some places, sometimes, Tun Shafi, when he was the minister at that time, his instruction was, when you're sitting down taking note, you cannot even have a notebook and a pen. It must be in your head. After that thing, you transcribe. So I can do that.
Wow.
So when the conversation is taking place, I'm sitting behind, every single thing is in my mind. I know in detail. So it's not very easy. But
no, it's definitely not easy.
Not easy. So, but that is one of those things that you got to do. But sometimes, many things that you hear being talked requires you to know some background information about this thing. And this thing, sometimes when you've read before, you talked about it before, you have investigated about it before, it comes and fills in the pictures. Right. Let me just give you one example. When I was heading the Africa department in the ministry one day, suddenly this, we were supporting the African National Congress. They were a revolutionary group at that time, not yet government. They were fighting, the thing, trying to overthrow the white government. So one agent from there, of course, secretly traveled to Malaysia. That time we couldn't travel. There's no travel between Africa and Malaysia, South Africa and Malaysia. He came, he wanted to see the ministry's head, now passed away, Tan Sri Kamil Jaafar. And he came to see him and I was asked to cover the call, of course, sitting behind. The conversation was absolutely unintelligible. I couldn't understand most of it because they're talking in terms of things that just happened in South Africa today, yesterday, the day before, all kinds of terms, jargon, all the kind of stuff. But then, because I remember the details, when I'm writing it down, then I remember, okay, this one, I've read about it like there, I've heard about this there. That's how I was able to piece the whole thing together. So when I eventually presented it to the Secretary General, who's now passed away, he was very surprised too because he himself didn't understand some of those things that fellow was trying to say. Some messages. But then he said, how did you know all this? I said, yeah, because through all the reading. That's when I realized, okay, I got a gift, I better use it well.
Wow, so it's kind of like that curiosity is the thing that gives you a lot of background knowledge and you just don't know when it comes handy.
Correct.
Right?
But it will come handy.
And it will just come handy one day.
Yep.
Right, wow, that's why it sounds like a spy novel. and I have to say that I guess this is one of those careers, the more you describe it, it sounds like being a generalist actually is a very important skill set. You kind of need to know everything, a little bit of everything, enough for you to make a conversation, enough for you to have some context so that anytime when you're ready to specialize, you have the background to learn fast. Now it sounds like partially like good salesmen also need to have that.
Yeah. True. Yeah, like if you are very specialized in only in say water or environment
That's
matter,
right.
you are a boring person.
That's
You
right.
can
That's
talk
right.
only to those people who know this thing, and then that's it. You cannot say anything else anymore.
That's right. I guess part of it that makes it very important also because when you're representing our country in other place, you're going to deal with all sorts of issues, right? And it's not just going to be environment or medical. It can be anything else. And that's where that ability to have a wealth of knowledge stored within you to allow you to deal with any different situation, any moment becomes such an important thing. And if you're just generally not curious, then you will be only interested in one particular thing.
Correct.
Then everything else will be like you need to relearn.
Or you rely on somebody else to do it for you, which it's a very difficult situation. You see, you must remember when you're out there as an ambassador, you are the government. Your embassy is the Malaysian government there. Every single thing that relates to the Malaysian government has to be dealt through you. Right? So whether it's official thing that you want to deal with the government, for example, or even when you're talking about I suppose you're going to ask me this later. Citizens, for example, you rely on the government for many things, right? Your passport, IC, you want to get married, you want to get divorced,
Everything health,
everything. So the whole thing is the embassy that has to deliver for you. So it's a small microscopic Malaysian government sitting out there.
Right.
So you need to know a lot of things, but of course you don't have to do every single thing yourself because you can channel it to the various departments.
You just need to know enough to move the needle and get things
Correct.
done.
You can't just say, ya tak tahu lah macam mana nak buat ni. You can't have that.
Mati lah like that.
Mati. Because I have gone through plenty of situations, and I must tell you this, 365 days in a year, every day is a different day. Every day is something new, every day is something crazy going to happen or not crazy going to happen. In 33 years of my career, every single day.
Can you share with me, right? What is probably out of all this exciting, what is that one highlight of your whole career in terms of excitement, right? In terms of like, it's such a new thing that you go like, wow, how to even deal with it? Wow, like that.
This happened in 1991. I had not yet been posted to Germany yet. I was heading the Africa division, but at that time, Tun Dr. Mahathir, at that time he was still Dato Mahathir, right? He used to travel very, very frequently to Africa. So, and I used to be the desk officer. So I have to arrange the flights. I've got to arrange the whole visit. I mean, dealing with the African government, putting
The whole
on the program,
agenda, everything
all of it. So I'm actually the man who actually is the one who makes it happen. Right? My bosses, of course, they rely on me to make it happen so that they will all be part of the delegation. So on one visit was to Tanzania. This was 1991. I can't remember exactly what. But those days, the Prime Minister did not travel in this very big aircraft that they are traveling today. Those days used to be Falcon 900. It's a smaller aircraft, government aircraft.
Okay.
We started like that, now only very big.
Oh.
The Falcon 900 can only take something like 12 people, only 12 or 15 people, not many, So there's the Prime Minister, his wife, ADC, doctor, his UTK, and a few people,
Right.
So this is arriving in Dar es Salaam. I had to be there already 2 weeks in advance on the ground to make sure everything.
Oh, so you were there already?
I have to, advance party. I have to go advance to be there.
Desk officer doesn't mean you sit at the desk.
No. You go prepare. You got to prepare everything here, and then you have to go there. Now there's another interesting part also because those days, Tanzania was just coming out of this communist world. No banks between Malaysia and then no banking system.
No banking.
Nothing. So how do you actually go and do work over there? You got to bring money, right? So I have to physically carry the cash.
That's a lot of cash, man.
I'm telling you seriously. It's a lot. A lot.
Because you're preparing not just for yourself, but the whole visit, right?
So 1 day or 2 days before you go to Bank Negara. Because they're all in US dollars, right? They'll put you in one room, they put the money on the table, they lock the door, they say you count it. Make sure, because you are going to take it in your name, If you lost the thing, you might as well don't come back because you cannot repay it back in your lifetime. that much. That much. I'm telling you, that's a lot. So you have to bring it there. So, but anyway, arrive in Dar es Salaam. I was there 2 weeks in advance. The Prime Minister arrives. The next day, the program took them to another place called Ngorongoro Park, which is Serengeti. You might have heard of Serengeti.
Yes.
Park. On the Kenyan side, it's called Serengeti. On the Tanzanian side, it's called Ngorongoro. It's the same wildlife park,
Right,
But
right.
very, very big, several million kilometers wide.
Right. Once you cross the border, it's called Mrong. Okay.
So he was visiting, he had to go visit there because the host country wanted to show him there, you know. It's about 1,000 kilometers away. So I had, of course, stay back in Dar es Salaam. I don't follow them because I have to be on the ground. So the aircraft pilot was a military aircraft, our Air Force guy, you know. He came running to see me that morning, say, sir, we have a problem. Plane cannot start.
Okay.
You see, when they are on the ground, the pilots have to run the plane every morning to make sure it's tested, all running in order, right? The PM already gone. Next day, they have got to test the engine. Comes telling me, sir, the plane cannot start. I said, what?
What do you want me to do?
What do you want me to do? Plane cannot start. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, we cannot start. So I said, can you get it repaired? Something like that, I don't know. Maybe you can push car, you put the spark plug or whatever. I said, no, nothing of the sort. What we did was we actually checked the inside there, they call it busing, where you put the suitcase in your overhead, right? Below that, actually, the wires, the panel. They pull out one of the panel, they saw the wiring had all melted and fused. He said, all melted and fuseless. So we don't know what happened. The plane obviously is not going to be able to fly at all.
Right.
This requires serious, major repair work. I said, this is really troublesome. The Prime Minister is already there. The Deputy Secretary General of the Ministry called, now Tan Sri Halim Ali, at that time he was still Dato, he was also with him, So I have no choice, got to call Tan Sri Halim on the phone. Those days, 1991, you got no cell phone, nothing. The phone was a satellite phone.
Yeah.
Long antenna, that's about 4 feet long. You have to go to some open space and pull like that.
Right.
So go there, call out there, hello, that kind of stuff.
Like the military kind of.
Yeah. So, hello, Dato', we have a problem here. What, Ilan, what's the problem? The plane cannot start. So what do you want me to do? I said, well, the pilot said the plane cannot start. So what it means that we, it cannot fly. He said, look, let me tell you this. That time, UMNO had just broken up. UMNO had become declared illegal. Semangat 46 had just been created. I'm telling all this and I hope it's out there. PM Mahathir had a meeting with Tengku Razali in London, scheduled 2 days later.
Right.
He had to fly the following day. No way he cannot miss that flight.
Yes.
He was expected to fly from there to London to have that meeting because it's a political meeting.
Yes.
So Dato' Alim said, look, this is going to happen. Well, whatever it is, by hook or by crook, Ilan, you make sure that he gets to fly. He must be in London on that particular time. I said, shoot, this is really a serious problem. Dar es Salaam is not Kuala Lumpur or London or anything like that. Went to the, airport to talk to the manager, to look for the flights, because those days no Google what.
Yeah.
Next day or the day after, only one flight going to Europe, Swiss Air. Now, bankrupt already, right? Check with the Swiss Air office, we need tickets. Swiss Air, they said, okay, all full. But we can give you about 12 economy class. I said, bloody hell, you cannot buy economy class for the Prime Minister. I can't put the Prime Minister economy. You'll be shot dead on the spot, What's this? So I said, no, nothing of the sort. I have to have first class. It's not just one first class ticket. There are a whole retinue. The Prime Minister, his wife, the doctor, ADC. I need about 9 tickets first class. So I said, look, I need to have the 9 tickets. They said, no way, are you crazy? Full. Office closed. Have to go to the manager's house. Got to go to the manager's house, talk. I won't tell you how it is done. Finally, I managed to get it done. They had to offload 9 people from the first class. And most of them are, of course, wealthy businessmen. They're all Africa. Whoever travels to Africa are businessmen. Wealthy.
Yeah.
Now, Swiss Air has offloaded 9 people. That means to say they got to compensate. They got to pay for the bad name that they incurred. A lot of things are as a result of this thing,
That's right.
It's not just simple. And the best part is that the next flight is 1 week later. They're offloaded and for 1 week you have to stay in Dar es Salaam. Their life is complete. If they have any business dealing somewhere else, all hancho.
Yep.
Can you imagine you're in that situation? What do you do? If the Prime Minister says he has got to fly and the plane cannot start, Swiss Air only once a week, all full, what do you do? And the boss tells you by hook or by crook, better make sure that he gets to London, otherwise your head will roll. What to do? Many kinds of stuff. I can't tell you on the phone, on the thing. But that is the real scariest thing in my life because as a young officer,
How old are you?
I was 29.
Wow.
So then managed to get it done like hell, etc. Then the next day, Tan Sri Halim and PM all came back. First thing he saw me, he said, Ilan, all okay? Yeah, Tan Sri, all done, all set. Good. All right. He didn't bother to ask because I'm sure they would have done that kind of something like that in their life before,
Yeah.
So he probably thought, okay, my
I don't
boys
need to
are-
know how you did it.
I don't
I
want
just
to
want to know
all
you
the-
did it.
You done it. All okay already, yeah? Okay, all done. Okay, that's it. So then next day, so we went to the airport and said, Nama, etc. He said, now, okay, Ilan, you stay back. Make sure that plane is airborne before you come back. Second problem. How the hell do you repair? Man, I can't go to Kedai Aseng and ask him to change the thing, whatever, How to repair a Falcon 900?
Do you read a Reader's Digest article?
I've never, and in the 1 year training in that, nobody told me how to get a Falcon 900 repaired, from Dar es Salaam. So that starts the second part of the adventure because Falcon 900 is done by the French. And I am trained, I'm French speaking, by the way. I study in France.
Right.
So I can speak and write in French. So I have to start the conversation, find out who the hell is Dassault Aviation in France and call them up, etc. The first thing the French would say, oh la la, c'est grave, C'est grave means very serious, So,
At that time, no Google.
no Google.
So-
all on the phone.
All manual findings.
All manual. I tell you, got all the thing,
Okay.
And then they will say, look, we can't do anything on the phone. We have to come and see it first before we can advise you. Then how do you come? Of course, you pay, make sure that we fly there. And we are not going to fly business class or economy class. We're all going to fly only first class.
Whoa. Okay.
So
okay.
you got to bring a whole team of engineers who are going to come for holiday and all the thing, bring them there. And then they look at the thing, oh la la, big problem, some more. So I ended up staying there for 3.5 weeks. They have to air freight all the parts and everything. Then they check, tested. But I was also lucky because the host government, the Tanzanian government, was kind enough to say, okay, since you're going to be stuck here, we'll give you this car and a driver and you can move around anywhere you want. So since I can't be sitting there watching them do the aircraft, right? So I went on a safari, few safaris. That guide, okay, let's go to this safari, that safari.
Oh.
So for the three and a
That's a
half
good
weeks,
thing that come out of it, huh?
did all the safari I could do. Saw all the elephants and whatever, lion. Whatever.
Wow.
And then 3.5 weeks later, then the plane was ready. The pilot said, sir, you want to come back to KL with me on the flight? I said, oh, thank you very much. You take your flight and go back. I'll take a commercial flight and I'll come back on my own way, So that was one of those memorable things.
Wow. I guess that whole story kind of really sums up how quick thinker an ambassador or like someone in the foreign ministry has to be, right? It's
Yeah.
like literally plain problem. What is it got to do with me?
And the boss is not going to listen to you for excuses. He don't want to hear any excuse.
In your role, it's just simply get whatever done.
That's it.
I just want result. I don't care how you do it.
Consider it done, finish it, and tell me when it's finished.
At the moment I tell you, it's done.
It's done.
That's all.
That's it.
You have to be extremely resourceful.
Yeah, that's the word. Resourceful is the word. Thank you for reminding me.
And during that time, it's tougher because it's not like today we have Google and everything. It means literally you had to read through manuals, ask people around,
people.
and ask who knows who knows who.
Whatever it is, you're going to talk to the PM, got to talk to the PM, that PM, their minister, whatever it is. You got to bulldoze your way all the way through, kind of stuff.
Well, that's really interesting position to be in. Huh? There's no rule book to follow also.
No rule book.
It's just get it done.
But there's something else before that too, because when I told you I arrived there as an advanced team, right? So I arrived in Dar es Salaam, naturally carrying all this money, etc., right? So you can't declare on the plane also that I'm carrying so much money, So in the declaration form there, you put it tadalan. You just carry $100, because you got plenty. Arrive at the airport, the custom fellow say, open your bags. Got to check. So I said, no, you can't open my bag because I'm holding a diplomatic passport. Have you heard of the Vienna Convention? Vienna Convention says, the host country cannot touch you. We are outside of the law.
Right, right,
We cannot be charged in a court of law in the country
right.
as long as you're a diplomat. So I
Right.
said, look, Vienna Convention, you can't touch my bag, you can't make me open, I'm not going to open. So I said, okay, you wait. So he just made me wait. So I had to sit on my bag there for 3-4 hours. Doesn't want to let me go. Then he come and ask, okay, now how? I didn't know to do that. Now how? I suppose you got to do that. Like, no? But of course, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to go and do that kind of stuff and get into trouble there, right? So I said, now how what? Nothing lah. No. I said, I'm here not for my own. My Prime Minister's coming in 2 weeks' time. You better let me out because if you don't let me out, I'm sure I'm going to go and complain about you and you're going to be in trouble. But the fellow also, of course, and I think that's what will happen. Like, He made me wait there for nearly 4 hours.
Wow.
And then finally he got fed up of seeing my face. Okay, come, go. That's how I got out of the plane, or the airport. Dar es Salaam airport those days was just like one shed. One door out. One long go down kind of a thing,
Right. And because you're also traveling through the special pass, right?
Yeah, special pass, yeah.
Right.
You got to be also very clear in your mind that there are rules and regulations which protects you. You got to defend those rules and regulations. That means to say by hook or by crook, I don't care, whatever you are. Vienna Convention says that you can't touch me, you can't touch me. Don't you dare try it.
Right. So there has to be a lot of quick thinking because someone will be like, 4 hours, I want to get out fast, I may pay you, right? And for all you know, that could be a trap.
Of course.
Right? They just want to say, hey, I want to trap this Malaysian ambassador or foreign and so that I can taint their name, right? So you also put yourself, so you got to be very calm and always really thinking all around possibilities, right?
And make sure that you are following the rules and regulation. That's the more important thing too. Your life must be always guided by regulation, rules and laws. You're not running out of it. You must operate all the time within it. Otherwise, you will be in trouble.
Sometimes I drive, right? Then there was once I got called by police. As usual, they hinted me. And this is what I did. I told the person that if you want to let me go, give me a chance, but I can just tell you very upfront, I cannot give you anything. Because see, I interviewed these ministers on. I'm pretty sure that I don't want to get into any trouble. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you also don't want to be on record ever. They just looked at it. Okay, you know what? I give you a chance. You go. Then I realized that a lot of conspiracy theories says that you're always on the watch. There's a file on everyone, kind of things. I usually don't get to know all this, obviously, but I think that if there is, just be careful lah. So that's why I'm a bit more like, don't do what will make you need to lie.
Yeah,
that's the best way to go about.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you just got to figure out a way so that you don't get into there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Avoid getting to that place. Yeah. And if you have gotten into that thing, make sure you still follow the law that's in operation. Follow correctly. Don't do things outside of it.
Yeah, because you never know when it comes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, having said that, we hear this interesting story about how you handle a foreign trip and so on. Side note, I heard that last time, because you have a chance to work with Tun Mahathir at a very, very close level, and especially as you move up the ranks, I suppose you are part of the delegates and so on. I heard this story that stewardess and stewards in those days tell me. They say that if you go on a plane with Tun Dr. Mahathir, you'll notice that he is a very serious man. And he really commands the respect like nobody's business. They were telling me this one incident where there was once like everyone was in the plane, the first class, they were very happy, laughing and everything. They were making noise. And it was so noisy. And suddenly, Tun Dr. Mahathir just turned back, looked at them. And everyone just went dead silence for the remaining trip. Is it really like that?
I mean, I suppose if you are in the plane and PM Tun is sitting in front and he looks at you, obviously you better keep quiet, don't make too much noise. But I can tell you, Tun Dr. Mahathir is a very shy person, very strange. Oh. He is actually a powerful individual. I know him, I knew him very well because my first posting was Germany, Bonn. Bonn, we were covering two other countries, Switzerland and Greece.
Oh.
And Dr. Mahathir those days, every year you go for holiday, 2 weeks or three weeks, to either Germany, or to either Switzerland or Greece. And each time he goes on holiday, because I'm the most junior officer in the embassy, I will get a cable from the Vishwan Putra saying, okay, Ilango, you have to accompany the PM on holiday, 2 weeks, do nothing.
His
His job is you have to be with the PM, But you got no role, nothing to do. No
Just
taking,
accompany him.
Just accompany him. No taking, no nothing. So I spent now 2 weeks. 2 weeks is quite a long time. Day and night with him.
So you get to have personal conversation.
Start in the morning. So I know that he is a very shy person, very introverted kind of a gentleman. But his knowledge is incredible. I have such a lot of respect for the man for that part because I like to read and he also loves to read. So I did ask him in one occasion. These visits are usually, there'll be some important businessmen also together with it, but I won't go into that direction. But Dr. Mahathir is like this. In the morning, I'll get to their place there. I'll have my breakfast first. I don't want to be eating with him together there, right? I'll be having all the papers. You come there, okay, Ilango can have the papers. You take the papers, sit down, read the paper for 1 hour. After that, you can sit with him. You can ask him any question. You ask any question, he give you one long 1 hour, long lecture about how this thing is done, how this connects, that connects, etc. You like feeling like you're having a master class. Every time you talk to him, like another super master class of things coming. Then I asked him, sir, how do you keep yourself knowledgeable? He said, of course, you got to read. Then I asked him, so what kind of stuff you read? He reads fiction. He told me.
Fiction?
Fiction. So I was shocked.
That's the last thing you expect, right?
And I thought,
I thought biography or something like.
Exactly. I was thinking about the biographies and serious stuff like that. That also I suppose I read, but he reads fiction a lot. Why? Because he says, I remember saying this at one time, your body requires a good brain, active brain. When you don't keep your brain active and in good shape, the body will eventually follow suit.
Right.
So his trick or his secret, he reads. So, and the man has got capacity of reading, which is unbelievable. I've seen him, because in the foreign ministry, we're always preparing briefs and notes for PM, right? We give it to him, I know. He has already gone through it, got line, got color, all these things.
Wow.
He's seen it. I haven't seen it like with other people. With him, meticulous. You know that.
Attention to details, huh?
Details. So you don't bluff it. That's why even when they go for other meetings, for example, the officers are very, very scared to be with him, because when he asks a question, he usually won't ask you a question what you've written down. No? He'll ask a question, something not related to what you've got there.
So you better know.
You better know a lot of things outside. So you better be someone who also well-read and curious about things. If you only know Jalan Raya sahaja, and he asks you something about something else related to the thing you didn't know, you're finished on the spot.
Right.
When he was a younger prime minister, he was of course much more commanding, Now he's older, he's much more softer. But I've heard of people who have been, transferred from their position because they couldn't or fumbled, whatever.
I noticed this about usually very successful people generally, people who do great things. They actually pay a lot of attention to details and they're very meticulous. Although they trust their team to do the work, but they will try to know so much about what they do, sometimes even more than the person running the operation themselves. And
Spot on.
And you'll be like, I thought I'm doing it, I know it. How come you know it better than me like that, right? Yeah.
Totally. I mean, that is a secret. I think so. That is a secret to apply to everybody. You need to know more or as much as your subordinate running the office.
But you think about it, right? I suppose you are like that as well as an ambassador. Because if not, you wouldn't be able to solve a lot of problems. Right?
I suppose so, yeah.
I mean, to think about it this way, I think you are like that as well. And generally, it's just to a different degree. Whoever who leads an organization tend to have this. It's just at a different degree of extremity. Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing because Tun Mahathir's case is
whole country.
Your whole country. And there's so many things. Right? Like ours one is probably a little bit. And like for you is the whole foreign policy. So to a different degree of that skill set, right?
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. I guess one more thing to also side note one was the fact that I'm not sure whether this is true, but this is something that affected me a lot. I remember when I was in school, there was this teacher who told me this. He said people told him that Tun Mahathir is someone who, when he goes to a toilet, if he go in, it's dirty, he come out, it'll be clean. The teacher told me that the philosophy is this. His answer is wherever I touch, I want to make sure it becomes a better place. So even if it's a washroom, I'll just make sure that I clean it up better than it was before. Not to say I scrub everything, but I just clean it up. I don't leave nonsense there. I heard the exact same thing from a stewardess many years later. So is that true? Because that actually made me do the exact same thing. Because I decided that if he think like that, okay lah, I'm one step closer if I can do the same thing. This is what I never tell anyone before.
Yeah.
This is the first time I
First
shared
time,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a true.
In the plane, yeah, of course, you're expected to clean up the thing before you come out. Right? There's a notice in the plane always. But personally, I have not heard this about Tun Dr. Mahathir, but it's a fantastic thing that you're saying. Probably there's some truth in it, but I personally have not seen that particular aspect of him.
Right.
Because we damn well make sure that the bathroom is clean before he actually uses it.
I guess more of the spirit of it lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that sense, then I guess is that true then?
Yeah.
Like he's very detailed about everything he goes. He
Oh.
makes sure that he's gonna be better in that sense.
He's got an eye for detail, that's for sure.
Maybe can you share with us something that's more of a highlight in terms of more spy movie kind of thing, where you have experienced before, just as much as you can share with us.
Well, first of all, in the foreign ministry, we got nothing to do with spies in the first place.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I thought spies under foreign ministry. No.
No. The spies are different people. But I'm not sure whether they are related to Malaysian side or not. But even in America too, the spying people are the CIA and different organizations.
right.
State Department are normal diplomats like us.
Right.
You know, first of all, the diplomats got plenty of work to do already. Don't need to do additional stuff. You know.
So it's not as like Hollywood like that lah.
No. That's all very fake. Not fake. I mean, it's a different
Sensationalized
story.
Okay.
But you're right in the sense that Beirut is a city of spies because every country has their spies also operating there. You know, otherwise, because you see, capitals which are very where freedom of press is practiced will usually have this kind of thing.
Right.
So there are two capitals in Middle East where you will have always got this kind of people. One at Beirut, and the other one is Cairo. Cairo, although a socialist country, but Cairo is also a very where press is freely available. So all of them will congregate over there. But they prefer to congregate in Beirut because Beirut has a lot more, even those days too, flights coming in, coming out, and then the life is so much better there, and all kind of stuff, you know. But anyway, I wouldn't, I mean, I'm sure I must have met one or two spies in my life without knowing who the hell I was talking to, you know.
If you would know, then there wouldn't be spy, right?
He would have been
there would be a very lousy spy.
It would have been obviously correct too.
Dato, was there any exciting story there where, because I always watch movie when it comes to Beirut, it's not that stable, right? That guns can just suddenly shoot, things can just happen. So was there anything like that went on during your time there?
Well, would you consider being stopped by Hezbollah to be exciting?
Oh, wow. Please share that story. Please share that story.
This is on one occasion where I was in my car being escorted by our military commandos. I got two vehicles, one vehicle in front, one more at the back, each carrying 5 or 6 commandos. It's a very risky area in the southern part. Suddenly, don't know out of nowhere, big crowd of people came. Hezbollah with all the AK-47 guns, etc. Stop all of us. You know, and they were coming, banging on the door of my car. And our commandos all jumped out from their truck, the one in the front and the one at the back, circling the car. You know, they were trying to talk to each other, but that buggers are shouting in Arabic, very hostile, gun, everything, you know. And here our guys, half of them can't speak Arabic, but
they're also armed, right?
Also armed, all guns, all young men, all guns drawn.
And you're in the car.
I'm in the car, you know. and my close escort, also army man, he told me, sir, you put on the bulletproof vest now. The military bulletproof vest, you know. It's not like the police bulletproof vest. It's small and black color, nice looking. The military one is damn big.
It's like the movie, the kind of the beige color.
Yeah, not that one. The one is a camouflage, the green and brown and that kind of thing.
Like thick one.
Thick and heavy, and it's from your neck all the way down to somewhere at the knee. Very big and heavy.
So it's not like the movie, the Gaia.
No.
Okay.
He said, you put it on and you damn well, you're not getting out, sir. The fellow was also very rough with me. He said, I was thinking of opening the door, finding out what the hell, you know, because I didn't know exactly what's going on. He forced me to put it on. He also put on his one, and both of us. And then he went and talked to our commandos, and then they were, no. It took almost an hour, and somehow, you know, they managed to sort of talk it out. Hezbollah guys apparently phoned their boss in Beirut. One of the boss killed, recently, right? Hassan Nasrallah. He's the head of Hezbollah, by the way.
Oh.
I'm not sure whether it came from him or not, but the bosses there in Beirut relayed the message that, okay lah,
Let him go.
Let him go.
So were you scared in that situation actually?
Sad, you know what? Definitely scared because you can be just shot and killed and that's it.
Or either you can be taken hostage or anything, right?
One could be taken hostage, but you could easily be killed and the next thing will be, Duta Besar Malaysia sudah terbunuh.
Again, like I say, I like watching a lot of a crime movie, spy movie. Always they're portrayed in such a way when you're foreign, when you are trained in foreign diplomacy, you are also trained to keep secrets. That's number one. Number two, you're trained to in a situation if you're being taken hostage. Is there really such thing like you can't like there's a blue playbook already? If I really get taken hostage, this is how it should work.
No, there's no such
no
thing.
such thing.
No such thing.
I think I watched too much of spy movie.
Yeah, that one. But we have things, for example, under certain circumstances, when say war breaks out, and you got to actually secure the embassy, you got to evacuate. There's a SOP there. You got to destroy.
Have you been in that situation?
I have not been there.
Right.
But my colleagues, the senior one, they have done it. I think in Cambodia when the communists ran over, they have to evacuate, abandon the place. In Iraq also, I think they have done that. Maybe in some other places as well. But I didn't have that opportunity or that. But what will happen is that you will have to take all the sensitive material. What you can, if you can bring them with you, you bring them. If you cannot bring them, you got to burn them. And then because we got telex machine, we got all kinds of things that we do.
Right.
Messages, everything got to be destroyed so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, etc.
I remember the other day you shared with me that you were involved in a hostage rescue situation before back then.
Yeah.
Right?
That was 1998.
How did that happen and what do you do generally?
This one was also a very interesting thing. This I had already been posted from Germany to Africa, opened a new embassy. I think 1 year plus. And then suddenly one day I got a call from the same Tan Sri Dato Ali, the one who went with me to Dar es Salaam.
Right. The one that you just get the plane done.
Correct. So he called me. He was still in the ministry. He said, okay, Ilan, we have got a problem. 3 of our peacekeepers have been kidnapped by the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone, the rebels. We need to rescue them. The Panglima Angkatan Tentera, the Chief of Armed Forces, is breathing down my neck, saying that, we got to get it done. And he told that the Russians have somehow gone inside and negotiated the release of their people. So not only Malaysian peacekeepers, the Russians also been kidnapped. And later I found out that some Indians were also kidnapped and maybe some even Africans. So then I told Tan Sri, that time Dato, right? I told him, look, we cannot negotiate. There's no way I can travel there because it's a war zone. I can't fly because no flights are available. And UN of helicopters will not take me as a civilian. They will only take military because there's no insurance. If you have military, then your job is to die, too bad, but civilian they won't take. So I cannot fly. So I said the only way is that I got to do it on the phone. And I know the boss of the whole thing is not the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone, but the big boss is sitting in Monrovia, a man called Charles Taylor. So I got to deal with Monrovia before we can get this fellow's released.
Wow.
But Tan Sri Halim said, okay, how do you propose? I said, well, I'll draft a letter from Tun Dr. Mahathir, Dato Mahathir at that time, to Charles Taylor to explain that your people have kidnapped 3 of our men, we want them released, all the kind of stuff. So I drafted a letter, telexed it back to KL, and he managed to get it done and send it back to me. And I've already conveyed this now to Monrovia by that time fax or something like that. Send that. Then I pick up the phone and call. Talk. Now negotiation on the phone. I never knew negotiations can be done on the phone. So no choice but nothing to do. That's the only way to do it, right? So the phone was picked up by a man called Enoch Dogolia. Enoch Dogolia was a vice president of Liberia at that time, who eventually got murdered by Charles Taylor.
Right.
1 year after this incident. I spoke to him. He said, no, we don't have any Malaysians there, etc. He refused to listen. Then I said, I'll call back next day. So next day when I called, I had a chance to talk to Taylor. I said, sir, we have your people in Freetown has kidnapped 3 of our men. He said, no, we don't have any Malaysians. They're all Indians and other kind of people. In my mind, I was saying, yeah, because one of the 3 is Indian guy, Malaysian Indian. And then 2 of them were Malays. Both also looking dark.
Yeah, military, right?
Military guys. All 3 of them looking dark. So I'm sure the fellow cannot recognize. I said, sir, I can tell you there are 3 Malaysians there. I would like you to intercede and release them. And then somehow along the way, he said, oh, Malaysia, huh? Oh, yeah, you have a team. You got a group of men working in our port of Buchanan, repairing our port in the south there. Port of Buchanan is another port further down south from Monrovia. In my knowledge, I know there's no such thing. We are not at all doing any contract work in Monrovia there, let alone Port of Buchanan. But when he said that, I thought, I better don't dispute him and say there are no Malaysians. I said, better, yeah, they are there. Just take advantage of the situation. You see, we are there, we are repairing your thing, and if you were to make sure that these 3 of them are released, maybe there'll be more investments coming from Malaysia. Because there's goodwill that you would have earned from our Prime Minister and all of that, and we'll be quite grateful. He said, I'll look into it. And then the next day or later when I called back, he said, yeah, you're right. We have found out that there are 3 of your men there. They'll be released in 5 days. So I was asking myself in my head, why 5 days? Man, you better say now, release, So anyway, I got the good news. I called up Tan Sri Dato Alim. I told him, they'll be released in 5 days. So he asked me, why 5 days? So I said, don't know lah, Dato. If I were to ask them question, the fellow might just say, why don't want? Worse still, I said, better accept and we wait for 5 days. True enough, after 5 days, they somehow managed to ferry them to the border and release them, together with other people as well. So that was one so-called successful negotiation, which I never saw the 3 guys in my life. I never met them. I hope they're listening to this podcast. Maybe one of them can.
Yeah, maybe it would be cool if, let's say, they're still around, right? Come up for dinner together or something like that, right?
Yeah, I would love to see them and talk. Maybe you can meet them as well.
I would love it.
Major Ganesh is one of them who actually wrote a book later on how his experiences there. So I never got to see these guys, but they happily went back to their positions and eventually they went back home after the end of the day.
Is there anything else that you can share with us in terms of how ambassador or how this diplomat thing will operate? Yeah, just to kind of sum up everything that we talked about just now.
Yeah, no, you had expressed a lot of interest on that intelligence side of things. Maybe I thought of just sharing with you some interesting thing that happened in Kuala Lumpur, but nothing to do with the foreign ministry. This was in 1981. An officer who was working in the Prime Minister's office, he was one of the pegawai to Tun Dr. Mahathir at that time, Siddiq Muhammad Gauss, and of course it's reported in the New York Times anyway, he was found to be a Soviet spy. He had been recruited apparently by somebody from the USSR embassy in those days. We're not talking about Russian embassy today, we're talking about USSR, those days, 1981.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody from the embassy had recruited this Muhammad Siddiq Gauss to work for them as their spy.
And he's in the PMO office.
He's in the PMO, but he's not in the not from the foreign ministry, nothing to do with foreign ministry at all.
Right.
And this was
we had a spy in the PMO office that time.
At that time. So he was caught. Of course, they found, and it was all true. And the Malaysian government expelled 3 Soviet diplomats at that time. The 3 of them who were involved in recruiting this particular guy.
Right.
The second secretary, first secretary, and somebody else,
Wow. So I suppose this is an open secret already because it was reported.
It's on the paper, yeah.
Right? So how does it work? Because for a country to plant a spy in the PMO office, it's kind of like a big no-no, right? It's a like at the moment you're discovered, it's kind of like, whoa, does it have a chance of triggering some sort of big diplomacy crisis, or like what's the implication?
Yeah, of course, because friendly countries don't spy on each other. That's the wrong thing to do, But again, we are talking about Cold War days. These are the different times and everything, And, I suppose in those days, I'm not sure what was the motive of this particular guy to have agreed to work with them, but apparently he was successfully recruited, and it was reported in the New York Times. Also in our newspapers too, Malaysian newspapers too, it was reported widely.
And what did they do with him after that? Did he go jail?
I think he went to jail and
Expelled from country? What
no,
does
no,
it?
they didn't. I think he went to jail, tried and sentenced, and probably lost his job and all this kind of stuff. Wow. So I'm not sure what was his motive, but that was one of those high-profile cases which were reported on the 14th of July, 1981. Long time ago, long before I even joined the foreign ministry. But I remember this. Remember, I told you I'm a curious guy.
Yeah.
So I remember that that interesting stories of those days. But I've never heard of it. This kind of things anymore. I suppose.
Right.
Do this.
Well, but having said that, we talk about friendly countries spying with each other. This kind of suddenly reminds me of this article that I read the last time, where in Africa, some of their government buildings that were built by China, they discover a lot of bugs around. So I guess friendly countries do spy on each other to a certain extent.
Yeah, I suppose they do that too, But there was a very famous story about when the Americans were building their embassy in Moscow those days, But of course, when you're building a new embassy, for example, in the case of the Americans, you have to rely on local workers.
That's right.
So what they do is that they put the bugs into the concrete and feed it into the wall. So the walls are basically all talking walls, listening and talking. But eventually, what I read again in Reader's Digest, that the American government decided to abandon that building to be used as the embassy, and they got to go and do another thing on their own. But those kind of things happen, But that is not the job of the foreign ministry or the diplomats. It's another type of people.
That's more of an intelligence side.
Yeah, different group.
So I suppose intelligence have their own arm, whether under military or under police or CIA in the US or whatever not, right?
Correct. And I know, of course, I do not know anything about how they do. So that's a different sort of thing.
Right. I remember earlier you were mentioning that every embassy is kind of like a micro country in there, right? So how does that work? Let's say if I am in overseas, I had a bad fall, I really need immediate medical attention. How does the embassy come in?
The embassy is something like a microscopic government of Malaysia, right? The medical part, let me answer a little bit separately, but let me start with the easier ones. Not easier, but more regular things. People losing passports. They arrive in some places, they go on a travel group, suddenly got pickpocketed, passport lost. And then you are stuck without passport. How do you do it? You got to go to the embassy to report. Before you go to the embassy, make sure you go to the local police and report it and get that paper say that you reported. But many European countries don't take in reports. They will just give you a paper saying that you made a report and won't give you a full report. But that's good enough. With that, you must go to the embassy to lodge a report to say that you actually lost it. What the embassy will do is that if you happen to have lost it in London or New York, you're lucky because our missions in London and New York can issue you a passport on the spot.
Oh.
Yeah. But if you're not in London or New York, what will happen is that the embassy on that, wherever you are, will have to put in the papers, etc. They make you fill all the forms. They will give you another document called emergency certificate, a document that is in lieu of passport that will allow you to travel back to Malaysia, only to Malaysia.
Right.
Say, for example, if you happen to be on a travel tour, you're traveling in 7 countries in Europe, and then you lost it in the second leg, for example.
Oh, gone.
Gone. You cannot continue the rest of the journey. Go to the embassy, they give you EC, and you got to just return back home. Arrive in KL, go straight to immigration and get your new passport done.
Right.
That's one. And that happens very, very frequently.
You were saying straight to the embassy. I mean, straight to the immigration to get it after you reach Malaysia.
Yep.
So means that I cannot go home first, chill first.
No, can.
Oh, can okay.
When you're back in Malaysia, because you just like...
So you're back in Malaysia already.
Malaysia already,
So just that the next flight you be on, it has to be in Malaysia.
Yeah, you can't just stop over in Hong Kong.
Right. But can I say, like, if let's say I lost my passport in the country, I mean, I'm just traveling into this country. Let's say I'm supposed to be a 7-day trip. I lost it on my second day. Can I continue to my 7 day, or the next day I have to just come back?
No, you can continue 7 days, because in any case, let me give you one example. When I was in Beirut, 2 girls traveling on their own somewhere in Nicosia, Cyprus. Some reason, the passport, they got pickpocketed. On to parentheses, like they say in French, let me just add this thing. If you are a tourist, Malaysian tourist overseas, do not walk around with your passport, please. Make a photocopy of your passport, carry that copy with you. But the passport, try to leave it in the safety box where the hotel where you're staying. Because if you lose a passport, it's very, very troublesome, very difficult. All kinds of problems will arise as a result. You don't need to carry a passport when you walk around. But if you had lost, like these two girls lost it, one of them lost the passport. So what she did was, we don't have an embassy in Nicosia because I'm covering from Beirut. But what we have is honorary consul. So she called. We told her to call the honorary consul. The honorary consul will get the forms filled up, etc. He will send it to us. We will fill up the forms and get her emergency certificate. We'll courier it back to her in Nicosia. That all takes about 3 days. So she had to stay on for another 3-4 days in Nicosia. Whatever that she can do in Cyprus, she can do. But she was actually planning to go from Cyprus to go to Egypt and go to Greece and a few other countries. All cancelled. After she got the thing, about 3-4 days after she lost it, she had to return back home and get it.
Right, I see.
That's one thing, if you lost a passport. Happy things. You got married and then you want to go and register yourself, we will marry you there too. We can do it.
Oh.
Yep. If you overseas want to get married, we
Oh,
will
so,
marry.
so let's say some guy who went to overseas with his girlfriend on the spot, they decided to get married.
Yeah, you can fill out the form, you got the procedure, etc. So we were authorized to act as registrar of marriages also.
Oh, wow.
So we can marry you.
But it has
there.
to be another Malaysian. It cannot be a local Italian
no.
or something like that.
No, it'll be a Malaysian. There, we'll ask you to see we'll put the flowers, all the kind of thing, and then we'll make it look nice for you, we can do that. Or if you happen to be there with your wife and suddenly she gave birth and then you need to register the child, we do it for you too.
If let's say going back to the part about medical, let's say I'm overseas, usually we'll buy travel insurance, so not a big problem. But what if on a case where you're overseas and you don't have a medical insurance, you need to get basic treatment and you really can't afford it? How does that work then?
This is a difficult situation. It has happened many times too. What will happen is that, assuming that person got family at home in Malaysia, we will try to communicate with the family and say, look, your person is so and so, kind of thing. Can you pay up for this guy's help? Can you get your people to put in the money to do that? We'll try to do that. Or we will try to use local resources that we have to make sure that he gets medical help, etc. help. Because if it's a serious case, you can't wait for the family to give in the money, right? We got to put it in or put the guy in. We'll do that too. We'll get him admitted to hospital, and as far as possible, we'll try to recover the money from the family so that they will pay for this. But there have been instances where we have to get the government to sort of do this thing. But let me tell you this on the air: the government's job is not to do charity work for people who travel overseas and got sick.
Right.
It's their job to get the insurance, etc. But at the end of the day, the Malaysians, we got to sort of come in and help. One more step forward further. If the person died, what do you do? Again, same thing. We got to make sure that get in touch with the family, try to bring help from the family to sort of, because the process of repatriating a dead body also requires money.
Now, quite expensive, isn't it?
Expensive.
I had a friend who actually literally, the mother went travel in Europe and passed away there.
Europe means you're finished. Very troublesome. If you go, and usually we will travel during holiday time. Holiday times are the worst time to die in Europe. So if you want to die in Europe, don't die near Christmas.
During holiday. Don't die near Christmas,
Yeah.
okay.
I remember one Malaysian, he died somewhere, something like 1 day before Christmas, Spain. In Spain, they shut down from like 1 day or 2 days before Christmas all the way until the first or second week of January. Nothing will be done. They will just put the body into the freezer, and for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, nothing will be done. Only after that, they will open up, start to do the process. And in Europe, you got to do autopsy, you got to do all kinds of things that will take another few more days. Because in that week, many more people would have died. A whole lot of things. So I've had to handle that. I've had to handle somebody who died in Beirut, not in Beirut, outside of Beirut.
Right.
Went for something, got shot in the mountains. We got to repatriate. But what we'll do is that we get in touch with the family. The family can put in the money. We'll use that to bring the body. But the embassy will have to do the work.
Yeah, because you guys are the groundwork guys there, right?
Or sometimes some Malaysians have been caught by law drug mules. We got plenty of cases.
That one very common, right?
Common. Kena already, and then you put in jail. We have to make sure that we have to visit them in the jail because we have to make sure that their rights are respected and all this kind of stuff. So the embassy does a lot of stuff for Malaysians, from birth to death. Masuk jail also.
And okay, so I suppose it wouldn't be the ambassador that go and do all this kind of groundwork, right? It will be the first secretary or that kind of thing, or at what level?
Usually third secretary, and the third secretary is a consular officer. Because in the embassy, there's the political side and economic side, and the one more side called consular, where when you go there to renew your passport, they'll have the consular office. That's where you go. So they are the ones who will handle it, and of course they report to the ambassador and all the things to do this. Sometimes when you go to Singapore, you got a long line of people waiting outside. They may say there's something wrong in the consular department there, they're not working fast enough.
Right.
So when I was in Singapore, I made sure that no, this cannot happen. I made sure that during my stay, there's no long queues of Malaysians hanging around outside the High Commission. Sometimes you got to be empathic, like you got to think for people. Singapore is not too bad, but in America, for example, it's a huge country. Some Malaysians lost their passport and they have living in Wisconsin. He comes to Washington DC. The flight arrives maybe, he takes the flight at 5 o'clock, arrives at 10 o'clock here. He comes to embassy, 11 o'clock, consular office tutup. Your consular hours are usually until 11 o'clock. All our embassies. Why? Because after 11 o'clock, you got to process all the paperwork so that they can get it back to you by 3 o'clock before you leave the office. So, but the problem is if you have traveled from Wisconsin, you're arriving there and then suddenly just get to the embassy by 10:20, only to be told, please come back tomorrow. How will you feel? So I made sure that we don't go into that situation. Make sure we find out who they are, what they do, where they are, so that we try to facilitate it as much as possible. If we are from very far away, get yours processed faster, maybe earlier, etc. So I did all this kind of thing. We cannot be emphatic to the Malaysian citizens issue.
Right.
Because out there, the Malaysian, when they get into trouble, they are usually very agitated. They somehow think that in the Malaysian embassy, you must do everything for me lah. That's it. That's human nature, They feel like, why lah Malaysian diplomat lazy, makan gaji buta. They will all say this kind of stuff like, They all definitely will because they feel angry, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that nobody's eating gaji buta, but the problem is the process takes some time. We got to verify. We got to do a lot of paperwork ourselves, all kind of stuff. In between, you got people dying, running away, lost.
Let's talk a little bit about employment. Then we go into business. So we talk about health and stuff like that. I had a friend who had this issue. He went to Africa and worked. It's kind of not exactly a job scam, but just definitely, I would say mildly categorized as, not say mildly, kind of categorized human trafficking. So a Malaysian company, a Malaysian timber company hired him, but the offer letter came from a Singapore entity, sent him to work in Africa,
Cameroon.
Nearby there, around one of those countries that I can't remember what's the name. And he worked in the factory, French speaking. After a while, they took his passport, then forced him to continue work there. And eventually, when he said he wanted to resign, they threatened him with all sorts of funny stuff. Not so much the kind of very illegal, I'll kill you kind, but rather it's like, I need you to pay for the damages before you come back, all these kind of things. Eventually, because that country do not have an ambassador there, so I think eventually he managed to get Nigeria side to come over. He had to find his way, escaping to a hotel. Then after that, transport him back to Nigeria. From Nigeria, gave him the emergency pass. Like, can you walk us through? I'm pretty sure these are something that's more familiar, more common than spy stuff, right? Say you're in this kind of situation. These are job scam situation. What is the process generally like?
Okay, first of all, before you travel, for any reason, even if you're going for holidays, make sure you go and check out our embassy addresses, get the numbers, all the kind of stuff. They're all out there. We get it done. Number two, you must remember, in some countries we don't have embassies, but they're covered from other places. This particular case, I'm sure it is related to Cameroon because there's one place where this happens. Related to timber.
No, it sounds like a very familiar thing for you.
Yeah.
Cameroon, straight away.
Yeah. But Cameroon is covered from our embassy, probably in Ghana, I think so, if I'm not mistaken. So, before you go, it will be very useful and helpful to communicate with our embassy there. for whatever reason, at least they know that you're communicating with them. Say that, I've got a job, so and so. Check with them if they can help you. Can you please verify whether this is a bona fide thing or not? Sometimes the embassy is able to help. Sometimes they may not be able to help because most likely you're not the first person who will be scammed. Maybe there have been others before. So usually the embassy, as I told you, we have meticulous reports, requests, information that we're able to rely upon.
Right. So before I get an overseas one, I better check the ambassador side, see whether these are part of those suspected lists.
Correct, yeah. Send it to them. And then if they say all is okay and everything, so you please tell them, look, I'm traveling over there. I would like to register myself in the embassy.
Oh.
Remember, the embassy, you can register yourself, your name. All Malaysians can do that.
Right.
So
to tell you that I'm working where like that.
Right over there, in that place, you put all your telephone number, whatever it is. And then you also ask them, because sometimes our embassies, we also have honorary consuls. So in Cameroon, there is an honorary consul somewhere. Right. So that is the person who actually works for the Malaysian government. So you got to deal with them, and then they will be able to help. So you got to inform the embassy, inform the local, honorary consul, for example, so that you're already well known out there. So if anything happens, then we know, okay, this is not something that's coming out of the blue, because you already communicated with us.
Right.
So this is a good practice to do even if you're, say, traveling on holidays, for example. Of course, the embassy is not going to investigate you and all the kinds of stuff. Some people are so scared that they will tail on, put nothing on the surface because they don't have any time for this kind of stuff. But if, for example, you are going somewhere and then suddenly, God forbid, there's an earthquake or whatever accident, you're caught, you're somewhere, and you're hearing for the first time, problem.
Oh, good idea. Actually, that means that when you go overseas and do business and whatnot, it's best to not just say check with MITI or whatnot, but also check with
embassy
side.
And make sure when you're going there, register yourself there.
Good
so
idea,
that they know you also.
What about on the business side, right? What kind of help generally that they will get help from embassy?
Okay, the embassy basically, one of its functions is to open doors. Open doors for Malaysians, help them out in terms of getting the business processes, advising them on, if there are do's and don'ts, for example. I can give you some good examples, where I have personally been involved in, When I was ambassador in Lebanon, one day I was just going to go from Kuala Lumpur there. I got a call from this company called YTL. Somebody, the CEO, urgently wanted to come and see me. And I said, look, I can't see you because I'm traveling. And then I said, the only place to do it, come to the airport and talk to me. So he actually came to the airport. So I'm telling you all this to tell you that how serious it was that he had to come.
Yeah. I mean, YTL CEO have to go and meet you in the airport. That's
with something pretty important, right? So that's when I found out. He said, look, okay, some months before that, they had put in a tender to take up a project in Lebanon. The project was refurbishing and maintaining 2 major power stations in Lebanon. Huge project,
right,
at the cost of 1.2 billion or 1.1 billion US dollars over a period of a few years. Huge thing, something like 5 billion ringgit worth, They won the tender, but before the tender could be officially signed and awarded to them, the Lebanese government collapsed. So YTL now wanted the embassy, the ambassador in particular, to intervene and help, because prior to that thing, it was being run by a South Korean company. And they have heard that the South Koreans are trying to get back into it and get the thing back.
Right.
Would be sort of sideway, back way kind of stuff. So the issue is now they wanted me to go and negotiate and talk with the government in Lebanon. Here you have a situation, the government has collapsed. There's no government. Again, there's no SOP. Nobody taught you how to do this kind of stuff. So I arrived there. $5 billion, 5 billion ringgit worth of a big project, right? So I started by talking to the Prime Minister, Sa'an Hariri. Sa'an Hariri is the son of the assassinated Prime Minister, Rafiq Hariri.
Right.
The Prime Minister. So when I explained to him, sir, all this kind of stuff, he said, yeah, we know this, but unfortunately the government has collapsed. I'm in a caretaker capacity. I can't do anything of the sort. But I can't go and tell this to YTL. Then I went and saw the finance minister, who happens to be another lady. Then that's when I realized, look, power sector in Lebanon is controlled by the Christians. That portfolio is under the Maronite Christians. So I knew that the Prime Minister, even if he wanted, he can't do it because the Prime Prime Minister is a Sunni Muslim.
Right.
They got different areas of interest. This one, I knew I have to go and talk to the minister, the power man, the Maronite boss.
Right.
When I went and talked to him, of course, he said, no, all the kind of stuff. Lebanon is all like that, It's all wayang kulit kind of a place and stuff, But finally, I managed it. And then managed to convince them that they can actually sign in a letter awarding it to YTL, So YTL finally got the project and they ran with the project. And soon after they started, they still ran into more problems. The Lebanese side refused to pay and all the kind of stuff, so I had to go in. The YTL called me a few more times to sit in and help out, etc. So I saved YTL a project which is about 5 billion ringgit worth. Of course, I was expecting them to say, thank you very much. Here's a nice letter to me, saying that you've done well. I thought maybe I can take the letter, give my minister, saying, look, I've done...
At least I've done... No money, never mind. At least I got a accreditation to show my bosses that I did a good work.
I did a piece of good work, saved Malaysian company,
So did they give you a letter?
No lah, they never gave me a letter, nothing, at all.
You can ask for it or not?
I'm going to ask for it. I hope the YTL people are listening to it.
Now you retired, then you ask for it.
No, now I don't need the letter.
A little bit too late, right?
But at least, say lah, thank you, recognize. Now it's too late, but if anybody in YTL listening, please, you have my communication. Call me and let me know. But that is some of those things that we do lah. But these things are replicated by our diplomats all the time.
Right. Wow. So when you're there, you also need to be a businessman.
You got to be a businessman too. You got to know the business on the ground, the people, all these things.
Oh, wow. That's really, really interesting.
So that's why the embassy is very useful to you.
Now I come to learn that the role of the embassy, I think, although we are actually talking about the career path of being an ambassador, but I think all these stories makes it much more meaningful because it's a little bit hard to really pinpoint and say, this is the job of a foreign diplomat, right?
Correct.
Yeah. There's no job scope.
There's really no job scope. Seriously, that's the word. There's no job scope. You look after the interests of the country and the people.
That's all.
Correct. Let me give you one more example. If you just can give me a few more minutes. This is a very interesting situation.
Okay.
I was in Washington D.C. I told you, minister, there was no ambassador. One day we got a call from a distraught father in Johor. Called. He said, my daughter has run away. She's on a flight to US. She befriended somebody on the internet and she just escaped.
Huh?
Can you please help my daughter? Save her. And when he's calling me, the girl has been in the flight for 2 hours or 3 hours already. The airborne already. The flight is going to arrive in about 6 more hours in Washington.
Right.
And she was supposed to meet somebody in Boston.
Okay.
So the girl, the background of the story is, the father is in Johor, sent the girl to Singapore to study, rented a house or room or whatever to stay. The girl befriended somebody on the Facebook, internet those days. The fella claimed to have loved her, etc. She decided to go to see him in Boston, get married and live happily ever after.
Wow.
The girl was not quite 18 years old.
I'm pretty sure that it's not really the real story of living together.
Obviously not. So then her father was crying on the phone, and now you are supposed to help a girl who is airborne. How the hell do you do it? Again, another diplomat story. You wouldn't know, right? But this one was very interesting and I find very, very satisfying because then I realized the girl was 17 years old. She'd been given a visa to America. Then I knew that the American embassy in Singapore had done a mistake because there's certain process they didn't do. I dealt with the State Department there. I said, look, guys, you got to come in because otherwise somebody in your department, State Department, going to be in trouble because they should not have given this girl the visa, etc. Because of them, now you have a potential victim of child trafficking or human trafficking because it's most likely going to fall into a prostitution ring.
Yes.
Over there with the name of the guy. Then with the help of the State Department, we got in touch with FBI, Homeland Security, and Zoom. Everybody came to the embassy. We decided, look, we have to make sure that we don't allow the girl to land and take the next flight. We have to make sure that she is rerouted back to Malaysia. How do you do it? Call up the father, say, look, first of all, we need to verify whether it's true or not. FBI and Homeland Security, they can do wonders, all kinds of things. They can just call the airline, whatever it is, get a manifest, they know. And manifest secret document, nobody can. Verify the girl is on the flight, her name is so and so, she's sitting on such a seat, they know all these things. only those guys can do it, like, verify. So we told them, okay, now let's get this plan. When she lands in Washington, I'll send my lady officer, education of attaché, because it's a young girl, I better send a woman who can talk. Because man means she probably is scared. So let her receive the girl from the flight, pull her aside. You guys assist, make sure she doesn't go anywhere else. I will try to arrange for her to be put back on another flight. So they all agreed. Then I call up the father. I got my staff to call up the father. Said, look, this is the plan. Give us your credit card. We're going to charge it to your credit card. We are not going to pay what? Yeah. Father, of course, readily said, yeah, please, this is it. My credit card, So we rerouted her from Washington to Narita back to KL. Cancel a flight to Boston.
And someone had to accompany her the way back.
No, that's a trick. So when she landed there, of course, I told this FBI and CIA guys, Homeland, let my lady officer be the one to collect the girl and you guys be in the background. But of course, when they arrived there, they bulldozed the whole thing through, like how they are American. Went into the plane, and then brought the girl out. The girl was so scared, etc. And managed, of course, my officer also managed to talk to her and explain that, look, your dad is the one who called. She said, so we are sure that you're going to go into the hands of the wrong people. And true enough, the name, the number, or whatever the girl was befriending on Facebook, the father had given it to us. When we sent it to FBI, of course, they do through their data set. They said, it's true. He's actually one of those guys over there. But they can't charge him because he hadn't done anything wrong at that point.
Right. But he's on the list.
On the list. Because he given a fake address also. Zip code, we can check for the zip codes, all doesn't exist. So for sure, the guy would have been waiting to grab her and make into the... So when the girl arrived, of course, she protested. We said nothing of the sort. Your dad wants you back. Managed to put her on the flight. I communicated with our embassy in Tokyo, saying that, look, when the flight gets there, make sure you guys don't allow her to get out and escape somehow.
Right.
So our fellows also arrive in Tokyo, make sure the girl is...
Wow, so coordination between different embassies to make sure that at the moment the plane door open,
the girl is
escorted.
And put back into the flight, en route back to Johor. Then we told the father, now your daughter is on the way back. We have done all we can do. Of course, we have actually done so impossible. This is actually, when you talk about it, it is an impossible task.
Yeah.
It just cannot be done, but it was impossible. But when you put your mind to it, when you think about it, if your own daughter was in the situation, would you feel, and how is it that I'm going to tell the father that we couldn't do it?
Wow. In that sense, right, it's seriously a role where also for Malaysian government, if they pick the wrong guy, the consequence is huge.
Because the guy can simply say, I do not know what to do.
Yeah, because there's no playbook. What?
No playbook.
Everything, it comes down to how creative you are in problem solving.
Correct.
And if you are having a bad day or you generally just,
I don't care.
I don't care.
You didn't take care of your daughter. She ran away. Your problem, not mine. He can say that.
Yeah, I can even say that, like, it's going to be difficult. We need to coordinate. We don't even know which flight is she on, so we will have to wait for a report, something like that. Also can. Which is a politically correct answer.
But that would have been too late, right? So then finally we told the father, now she's in your hands. You have to try and make sure that she doesn't go and do this again.
Okay.
Of course, we don't expect the father to say thank you. The girl should be about 34 years old now.
Hope she listens to this and she remembers that as a good lesson, right?
I hope she's safe with her family and all that.
I was wondering, Malaysia is actually, I would say, human trafficking generally is a very, very big issue. Malaysia itself, in that role, we definitely don't have a very good reputation internationally. But maybe I don't really want to tackle on that part of the issue yet. But more about also Malaysians being trafficked out, or either even some scamming groups, foreign, scam Malaysian money, and we expect Malaysian government to be able to do something. But it seems like it is not that easy. Can you walk us through how complicated the whole thing is actually?
No, you're right. It's actually very complicated. First of all, it is because Malaysia is quite an open, liberal country. We don't really interfere in the affairs of other people. If you are going to go and look for a job in Myanmar, well, we won't stop you. But we expect you to do your legwork and all the kind of stuff. But having said that, the trafficking part, these nefarious elements in all countries, they are not related to the government. They are operating on their own. Like many years ago, there were cases of people being trafficked somewhere near the Thai-Malaysian border. they found dead bodies and all the kind of stuff. Sometimes some officials are complicit, and sometimes not officials, but very often it involves narco traffickers, gun runners, pirates. There are 8 things called transnational crimes.
Right.
I mean, the crimes, they don't really sit in one country. They operate through many countries. And usually they're able to avoid jurisdiction because they play one jurisdiction against the other jurisdiction. Say, for example, if they, let's say, technically speaking, if somebody trafficked something from, say, our border of Malaysian side, and the police is chasing, and developer went into Thailand, police have to stop. They can't go into the Thailand territory.
You cannot straight away work with the Thai police and say, hey, can you...
If they have pre-arranged arrangement that allows them to do that, they can do the hot pursuit. Otherwise, they cannot do it. This is why transnational crime is very successful like that, because the country don't even want to have the standing relationship. Can you imagine if all the time Malaysian police or some other police from one country can simply
always just speed across?
They also don't want that.
Yeah, because it can also be easily abused.
Abuse also. So they won't have this kind of standing thing.
Right.
So, and the crooks, they know this is how it works. All I got to do is just escape into the next border and then, leave it out for a while and then you're done, So it's very, very difficult to address this because of these complications here. But within this ASEAN framework, there's a lot of communication, cooperation going on and kind of stuff. Although people say ASEAN is a useless organization, it's not really useless because it takes a lot of paperwork, a lot of coordination to put things together. Just between Malaysia and Thailand itself takes a long time. Can you imagine if all 10 countries are involved? And many of this involves countries like Myanmar. And Myanmar there involves many kinds of other sub-national entities where the government itself is not in control. So there's this too complicated. But again, the rule for Malaysians, if you are, you have some juicy offer out there, please check it out.
Yeah, check the embassy. That'll be the
Check with the embassy.
fastest way, right?
Yeah.
As an ambassador, in terms of as a career and in terms of money, how does it work?
All right. So as ambassador, you get the same salary as you get as any officer of that particular grade. Most of the ambassadors will be of super scale C grade.
Right.
And C, B, A, depending on how long have you been there. Super scale C, the salary package is about 15 to 20,000, I think so, currently. And I got allowances together with it. But if you're serving the foreign ministry, you get another set of money, which is called overseas allowances. This is to compensate for the gap in terms of your cost of living between us and wherever you are.
Right.
It's always going to be very costly living overseas, So in some countries, the overseas allowances are very big. You get a lot more money. Sometimes maybe as much or more than your salary itself. So it's double. Sometimes it's less than that. But you must remember you got to use that part of the money for your living expenses over there. The government pays for your house. The government pays for your flight, your family, all of this, all will be taken care.
Education for kids?
Education, if you're primary school, 100% the government takes care. In secondary school, until I was still in service, 95% government pays.
Right.
You got to pay about 5% of it. Everything else is basically taken care of the government. But you got to pay for your food, your car, your fuel. Those you got.
Food, car, you have to pay yourself. There's no driver.
No driver. You got driver, you pay yourself. I mean, ambassador, yes. For ambassador, I have my driver.
Oh, okay. But anything less than that, you
Less,
pay for
I
your
gotta
own.
pay,
Or you pay for, if you want driver, you pay for yourself.
Exactly.
But food, all those are, you have to pay for your own food.
Food, I got
But
to
housing,
pay. Housing, I can have maid. Maid is also paid by the government.
that's
For me.
only for ambassador, right?
Ambassador. Driver too.
Okay, so just now we talk about those first part is for everyone, but now the difference is the ambassador part. So if you're ambassador,
2 maid, you in some cases, or 1, and driver.
and driver.
And some places, you even have gardener and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
right. I suppose the house also cannot be some small apartment, right?
No, the big houses.
Yeah, it should be big houses, right?
Big house.
Yeah.
For example, my residence in Singapore, I can just tell you, is the second biggest property in the whole of Singapore.
Oh, it's a GCB. I mean, good class bungalow.
Much bigger than that.
Oh, wow.
It's so big, the place. It's about 9 acres.
Wow, that shows how good friend Malaysia and Singapore are.
Inside there, I got durian trees, I got rambutan trees, lots of animal, wildlife, everything is like almost like a real virgin jungle there, very big place.
Wow.
And the residence itself is humongous, big. I mean, it's like any istana, That's the biggest I've seen so far,
Oh.
But we have embassies, residences in London, Washington, which are also very big. London is not too big because it's a town. Washington is big also.
They will station a lot of military around, those kind of things as well. Like,
No
because I always see
military
like when we pass by Jalan Duta, right? All the embassy got guys with guns.
they got their guard, everything.
But house don't have lah.
We got.
God also lah.
But it's so big, from the guard house to drive up to the house will take you about 2.5 minutes of drive.
Wow. So how's it like your term there in Singapore, living in a nice big house?
Oh, very nice. Very grand feeling, etc. But then they used to say that the house is also haunted. That's a standard Malaysian story, right?
Standard.
Every building is haunted in Malaysia.
Yeah, everywhere we go.
Overseas is haunted.
Hotel.
Also haunted. So we have
Maybe follow us on the plane.
Anyway, so talking about remuneration, so the package, it goes that way,
Right. So depending on country, that's where the added allowance is. But what we can say is that generally, education for kids are taken care of, and then flights are taken care of,
health,
and
medical.
Then there's that standard extra allowance to cover for the differences.
Correct.
So in actual fact, it is just kind of like a normal government servant in high rank, but with extra because of foreign residents in that sense, right? So what happens is that you get a lot more savings because a lot more things are taken care of compared to you in Malaysia, right? To go into a government service, actually probably foreign ministry, to be a diplomat is probably one of the best.
Well, in terms of money, probably yes, but you remember you lose also many other things. You don't remember that.
What do you think are the costs? There are other ministry that will allow people to be around more, right? All these kind of different kind of things. And sometimes you end up building longer relationship, and that could lead to other opportunities, some above, some below, right? But as a foreign, you're always moving. So there is nothing, right, in the sense. So maybe can you share with us like all these different from above the line to below the line, whatever you're comfortable in.
The lower level of problem is, for example, you are away from your family. So many of us will have to miss seeing your siblings, children grow up, sibling growing, sometimes parents dying, you don't get to see them because they're very far away. It all happens. These are all the sad part of it.
Right.
So
and you're handling something busy here.
Yeah, and then you find that your children are very foreign to your siblings' children. When they meet, you can tell there's already a big gap of a difference.
Right.
My two girls both studied in America. They are very different outlook as compared to their, nieces, friends, right? So that's part of the thing, that's the social cost that comes to you. It's quite sad because when you become old, that's when you realize that, I missed a lot in my life. Things that cannot be bought by money.
Right.
When I see my older friends, ambassadors who are very old today, they have that regret in their mind, in their lives. They never were able to be there. Then on the other hand, if you have served in some important places, you might be sought after by the private sector. Most of our ambassadors who served in Beijing end up being sought after by the private sector, even after they retired. Even until now, I know my own boss before that, he was there as ambassador. Even until today, he is all the time with the Chinese, chambers of commerce, Beijing when they have things, he's always invited, very important man, etc. So that's that advantage because you know the business things on the ground, how things work.
That's true.
So the private sector, they know, okay, this guy served in Beirut, the fletcher in Beijing. They need the links. They do that. And they can be very good consultants.
Right. So in a way, that's good also, right?
It's good.
Because in that sense, the opportunities that you get are generally very above board. It's very legit and there's longevity and sustainability to it.
And plus, like for example, one who just recently passed away last year, his last posting was in Myanmar. But then he was so... and when he came back, he joined the Tan Chong Motors, Tan Chong wanted to expand their motor business, second-hand car business in the whole of Myanmar, Cambodia, South Asia. And he became the head of their thing here because he had already been trying to promote Malaysian businesses, Proton those days, etc. So he had already made friends with so many people. It makes a lot of sense for these companies to quickly just grab them and become their thing. So many people have also turned up that way.
Like, since you've already moved to so many countries and in the end come back to Malaysia, do you ever feel like, I mean, there's one part of it definitely you feel like you miss out in terms of even development, right? Probably after 3 years coming back, the road looks different.
Oh, yes.
Do you ever feel like you are a foreigner within your own country then?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I tell you, from the time I left, because I spent many, many long years outside. Every time I go, it's 7-8 years. I stay overseas before I come back. Every time I come, my country has changed so much. Development and all the kind of stuff. So I find that the Malaysia that I left is not the one that I come back to. Sometimes also not for good reasons also. But it's been a remarkable life. You wanted to ask this question. I forgot to answer the question. One word or one sentence to sum it, I would say, what a life. But would I want to do it again? No. It takes a lot of stamina, a lot of emotional strength, pressure, stress. I don't think I can live another time to repair the aircraft, or to save somebody's daughter from being kidnapped. I can't do this another time.
Do you then, like, sometimes in this role, feel that there's a lot of emotional stress? Because very often when it comes to you needing to handle it, it is really a very big responsibility. It's like everything is hinged on your shoulder. Because it's not like if you are in Malaysia itself, you are the health ministry, then I'm only in charge of this part. But for you, you're in charge of everything. You literally is a representation of the PM, or the Agong, right? You're literally representing a whole country, right? How does that emotional stress take a toll on you sometimes?
It depends, for me, yes, because I take my job seriously. I'm always telling myself, first of all, you're a representative of the Agong to represent the country, but you're also representing the Malaysians here. Their life depends on you too. They depend on you to help them out. Of course, I can take a simple, easy way out. I told you one example of this child, but there are many other stories I haven't told you.
Yeah.
There was another incident, a woman married into an abusive family in the one faraway state in America. Horribly abusive. And she wants to escape from the country. She wants to make her daughter be Malaysian. How do you do? It's so sad. Mother crying, the parents are crying, they want to have the daughter. Of course, very easy for me to say, I can't do anything. You got married to him, too bad. You just sort it out yourself. I can easily do that because there's nothing in the law that says that I must help, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I tell myself, look, can I come back 5 years, 10 years down the road and say, I did not help when I could? I am personally, emotionally vested in these things. So it hurts me. But I do it because I sincerely feel that my job requires me to help the Malaysians as best as I can. If I really cannot do it, I tried, then it's too bad, it's out of my hand. But insofar as I can do, I've done it. I have pushed mountains in my capacity to do things.
I guess there will be times when it doesn't happen the way you wanted it to, right? And do you then carry those things and feel responsible for it?
No, if I've tried my best and it didn't happen, then it's just too bad, But the human side of it, thank God, I didn't have a situation where something didn't happen correctly, But on other kinds of things, sometimes things can go wrong, So that has happened, it happened too bad, I couldn't do it, But most of the things, okay, this one done, something to do with Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, not Dar es Salaam.
I think after all that you've said, I also realized that it is quite a thankless job. I guess generally over the years of speaking to many different people, especially when it comes to civil service, I realize it's a very difficult place to be in because when you do the best job, you are expected to do it. There will be no thank yous. If there's a thank you, it's a bonus. But when you don't manage to do a good job, your head is going to roll. Maybe can you share with us a little bit of your personal experience? I understand some of those things could be extremely sensitive. How do you remain or still choose to do the right thing?
I think you have to be very highly self-motivated and self-driven for your own satisfaction that I feel I've done my part in the whole big scheme of things. Even that thing that you mentioned about Myanmar, of course, nobody acknowledged what I've said, I've done. So they, as far as they're concerned, it's their own idea, not mine anyway. For me, it's fine. If nobody acknowledges me, it's fine. But the people who were touched by me, they remember it. So I think that alone is enough for me to go on, you know. I mean, beyond this, I've saved 107 Malaysians stuck in the war zone in Syria, evacuated them. I hope some of them say thank you to me, even if they didn't, fine, you know. But I think I've done my bit. So I'm actually quite happy when I look back, reflecting upon it. I suppose you have to be just happy that you have done it because it was the right thing to do. And if ever there was a situation where you find there's a conflict between having to do this or wrong thing or whatever, I think, like I said from the beginning, stick with the law, stick with the rules, follow that thing. If it says this is the only thing you can do, you do it. That's the only thing you do. You know, within it, try to do your best.
Maybe you can give us a little bit of advice for those who are watching out there. How to be able to live that life that will go, what a life.
I think first of all, you need to have the passion for it. But I think where the passion becomes very important is how much you can actually impact upon the other person. If you can make a change, impact on another person, I think that's where you derive greatest pleasure. I suppose you have to be of that kind of person, you know. But generally, when you help a person, they are usually thankful, you know, to you. Most of the time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. Ilango, for joining us in the studio. For those of you who are watching out there, I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I do. I understand that we've gone really long in time, and I want to thank you for those of you who stay all the way till the end. I thought it was a wonderful one. If you like this episode and you have any questions, do leave it in a comment. And last but not least, I also want to share with you guys that Dato actually has his own YouTube channel as well. It's that kind of attitude, you know, that Dato still display that I still want to enjoy my life. I'm still curious. I still want to conquer something. Continuous learning. I thought that was fantastic. So for those of you who are watching out there, you want to learn more about diplomacy and those kind of things, maybe Dato, you can just give us a quick introduction of your channel, why they should subscribe to it.
The channel is called Diplomatified. Thank you, Peter, for putting that out. It's all about issues of interest to you, ASEAN, BRICS, South China Sea, China, this kind of stuff. So if you're interested in it and my perspective on it, please subscribe to it.
Fantastic. Do check out the link in the description. Yeah, we'll see you next week.